Good morning. It's Tom Padula from TomPadulaTV on YouTube and Insegna Booksellers. And this morning we're continuing with the World History series. We're up to program 36. And this morning is the 2nd of June 2022. And I want to remind people that it's the Festa della Repubblica Italiana, which began in 1946. So big celebrations here in Melbourne, I believe on Sunday. And of course, during the week, there'll be other activities. Welcome to Frank Mazzacca. Now, this morning, we continue with the history of Rome and their fight between Rome and Carthage, one of the colonies of the Phoenicians in North Africa. So, and the period of time we're looking at is around 300 to 200 BC, before Christ. And then I thought, okay, we're not going to just do the Rome because this is world history after all. And I selected for this morning for the same period of time as the Romans were progressing in their quest towards the empire, what was happening in China at the same time. And let's not forget that we don't sort of compare what goes on between one continent and another. Generally, history is taught in schools. It's a national, it's a national obligation in a way. So I'm becoming a little bit more tolerant towards the fact that the world, not everything can be done at the same time. So, and not everyone knows everything about other places. So we tend to be local, and we tend to be to look after our own self-interest, and sometimes we have to just open up our mind about what other things, what else happens in the world. I don't know whether it's a good thing or bad, but I believe that knowledge across the world is important today because we are in an era of technological know-how, and while we're trying to go out beyond the Earth into the universe, into space. We're thinking about planets and other places in the universe that women can visit in the future. They're doing it now, but there's a lot of progress to be made before we can colonize. If we want to want to use the current one, we want to invade other. If you want to invade the moon, or you want to invade Mars, and when you get there, and you might find some people up there living, you may be lucky if that happens in one of the planets or whatever is in the universe eventually. I'm sure that we are not the only ones in the universe, but you never know until we have definite proof. So that's, I thought we'd look at China. So in other words, bringing the history together at around the same time. Now I was looking at my other information there about China, about the earlier periods, but I'm following a particular line of thought. So what happens in one place in those centuries, what happens in the other places. And I was thinking too, welcome to Angela Emila, and I was thinking too of going after this to South America and look at what happened there at the same time, and what happened with the Vikings at the same time, what happens with a lot of other places in the world, and it's great to be able to expand our horizons. We're very lucky too because we've got Netflix now. And, well, I just got it. A lot of people have had it for a long time. But I'm a buff, history buff. So I sort of love to look at the history of the world in film. I've always loved it, and I think it's It's wonderful. Some other people like thrillers and comedy, whatever, but I'm very much attracted to the history part. Okay, and this sort of study also helps you if you have, one of the better phones. You'll be able to access through Google and Chrome and whatever other platforms. People in other eras, study Caesar, Napoleon, the King Arthur, Alexander the Great, Carlo Charlemagne. So there are a lot of people in the world, in history, that have left a great mark. And then the religious leaders, of course, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, you've got Buddha, etc. So all of these historical facts are available, easily available and accessible. It's just a question of whether we want to or not. So it's 11:30. I didn't mention that I'm going to do before the invasion, the indigenous people, and then I will look at my trip on the peninsula, on the Mornington Peninsula, and also I have an interview of Sandro l'Emigrante, but it's in Italian. I promised him it is from March, so it's getting a little bit too far down the tracks. So I'm going to bring him on today. So we'll see how we go. Okay, now the first thing, we left Rome last week when we said that the Romans built a navy because Carthage was a port, an important port in the Mediterranean Sea. So the Romans were good on land, but they weren't good in the sea. So what did they do? They built a ship. They found one of the Carthage ship on the sand, and they copied it, and they added what they call the corvus. So we're starting with the corvus. To make up for the superior seamanship of the Carthaginians sailors, the Romans fitted their ships with a corvus, or a crow, a long heavy plank with an iron beak or grappling iron at one end. As soon as their ships came near enough, the spiked end of the corvus was dropped from the masthead onto the deck of the opposing galley, and then they attacked them. Carthage loses Sicily. Thus, with the two ships firmly grappled together, the Roman soldiers could swarm aboard the enemy vessel, converting the naval battle into a hand-to-hand fight, at which they were usually more than a match for the Carthaginians. These tactics were successful, and the Carthaginians were driven from Sicily. And Sicily then became the granary of Rome. There were different climates at the time, and Sicily had a lot of, they used to grow wheat. Hannibal invades Italy. Now, after an interval, fighting began again in 218 years before Christ. This time the Carthaginian commander was one of the greatest soldiers known to history, a lion-hearted man called Hannibal. And there were books in Italian, of course, of Hannibal in Insegna. Determining to take the war to Italy itself, he made ready in southern Spain a great army, which included elephants, and set out at its head on the long march to Italy. He actually crossed the Alps and went towards southern Italy, and then with the idea of going to Rome, but he never made it to Rome. And routs Romans at Cannae. Avalanches, hostile tribesmen, and the bitter cold reduced the Carthaginian numbers by about half, while the army was struggling over the Alps. He lost half of his army, Hannibal. But Hannibal was undaunted. Marching south, he inflicted on the Roman legions two of the most crushing defeats they ever suffered. In the second, the Battle of Cannae, in 216 before Christ, the Romans lost 70,000 men, 70,000 dead. And it is said that there was hardly a family in Rome that did not mourn for a father, brother, or a son. Can you imagine the hatred that developed between the two? And at the time, religious, taking vengeance was like an obligation. If someone dies in your family, you were obliged to kill someone else from the family of the person who killed. For 13 years after Cannae, Hannibal marched about Italy, capturing towns and laying waste the countryside. He was there for 13 years. He must have liked the weather. But without reinforcements, he never dared to attack the strong fortifications of the capital. Finally, he had to take his army home by sea to defend Carthage itself from a Roman army led by Scipio in English, Scipione in Italian, a general in whom he met his match. So Hannibal, Scipio, a Roman, Scipione in Italiano, was a good match to Hannibal. And Hannibal had to go back to Carthage because what he did, what he did, he invaded Italy, the Romans invaded Carthage and welcomed Colin Ransley. Now, Carthage destroyed after the Battle of Zama, 202 BC, before Christ. In the Battle of Zama, fought near Carthage in 2002 before Christ, before the birth of Christ, the Romans had their revenge for Cannae. And some years later, they utterly destroyed the city that had once been the proud mistress of the sea. Apparently, then they put salt on it. The hatred was so big. And, they didn't play around in the old days. You did something wrong, mate. That was unbelievable. Now, that's all I really want to say about Rome for the moment, because next week we'll go to Caesar and the Empire, the Roman Britain. We'll go there. So before I start on Caesar, I wanted to dedicate a bit of time to the Chinese at the same time, around this time here. And the reason for that is simple. We must learn to compare what happens in one continent with another and why things are the way they are today. Why isn't Africa, Africa's coming up as well. The world itself is improving all over, except for the current war and other previous wars. We must fight for peace. We must fight for peace. To achieve it, you have to look after all the population, not just a section of it. It's very hard to do. And good luck to the current government here in Australia, the Anthony Albanese government, to achieve what they've promised to do. And I hope at least the people, they receive the cooperation of the big business, because, in the past, big business always favoured big business. But big business really should look after the people, the ordinary people like me, in small business, like you, like other people here. Welcome to Antonio Danzi. So history will teach the politicians what to actually look for in our society and do it. So a lot of promises have been made with this current government, and the reason for that is simple. In a democracy, you should have, a couple of terms in government, and then regardless of their success, put them out. Because if you don't, then power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And plus the politicians who remain, who lose, they are the winners for the people, because then they know the system and they can pass on what really goes on. So we depend really on our good government to be governed properly. But it's not always easy. It's a big cake that you have to divide. There's the roads, the health, education, defence, this and that. You've got a lot. A lot depends on good government at the highest level and at the lowest level, even in our families. I think that history should be seen along those lines. Now, let's have a look at the period of great feudal unity in China. The period of the Qin, Qin and Han dynasties began in 221 BC, before Christ. And don't forget, Christ was not known then. BC, when we say BC, we're talking about the Roman calendar. Because, you know, other people have got their own calendars with different dates on them. But, you know, what I know is that we take it from the birth of Christ. And then you check up some other place, they got a different date. But that's it. And ended in 2020 AD after Dominus. In other words, after the birth of Christ. So we're looking at about 430 years between the Qin and Han dynasties in China. So the Qin dynasty was the first feudal dynasty to rule all of China. It laid the foundation of a united multi-ethnic country. Many institutions initiated in the Qin and Han dynasties were inherited continuously by later dynasties. This is what happens with Charlemagne in France in 800 after the birth of Christ. Charlemagne was his children created the institutions of the feudal system. The feudal system was there in China almost 400 or 500 years before. So don't forget, there was a Silk Road. Even at that time, there were traders. So the ideas that of one place to another, but then there's, you know, people in different places look at it in a different way, and they govern it according to their own local systems. So the feudal system that Europe inherited, and in a way, you know, all the small towns in Europe, and even here, that's like the feudal system, because when you're in a small town, you don't have all the facilities that are possible in a city. And you only got a few families that sort of, you know, the successful ones, that dominates. There's competition amongst people. For me, that's okay, as long as they don't use violence. If they do it within the law, within what's accepted within the law, fine. But if you want to go outside of the law, then it's a criminal system. There's still a system there. It depends on, you know, the way you look at the world. So for me, I think it's better to respect what, even if you don't agree with the people at the top. But if it's a dictatorship, you haven't got a say. But in a democracy, you have a say with the vote. Now, in a lot of our democracies in the world today, the vote is not compulsory. In Australia, it is. And that's the only thing that should be compulsory in a democracy. Every person has to vote. Italy doesn't have a democracy like this. People can vote or not vote. They don't get punished if they don't vote. In America, it's the same. In France, look it up. I don't know everything. Look it up. Look up who's got the vote, who's made the vote compulsory in their democracy. Because in a dictatorship, there's only one party, the dictator. They might put in another little... They eliminate the opposition. Because they've got the army, the spies, the this and that. You've got to watch your P's and Q's there. So, the Qin and Han dynasties. The Qin Empire was established in 2021 BC by Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who adopted a series of reforms, bringing the whole system under his rule. He made the Qin Empire the first united multi-ethnic country with a centralised autocratic monarchy. You had to pay your taxes and give it to him. Everyone had to collect for the king, for the empire, for the emperor. However, the heavy-handed methods of Qin Shi Huang, heavy-handed methods, people never liked them. We still don't like them today. Yet some people have heavy-handed methods. even amongst ourselves in families. Family violence, it comes from heavy-handed methods. Of Qin Shi Huang and his successor led to the overthrow of the Qin dynasty in 206 BC. So whilst Carthage and Rome were fighting, and 5 years later, Carthage was laid waste in North Africa, and the Roman Empire expanded that way, the Qin dynasty came to an end by a peasant uprising. So they said, we've had enough of you. The Han dynasty includes two periods. There are two of them that followed the Qin dynasty. The Western Han and the Eastern Han. In 2002 BC, Liu Bang established the Han dynasty, choosing Chang'an, today Xi'an, as his capital. So he was there for about 200 years. In 9 AD, Wang Mang staged a coup and set up the Xin dynasty, Xin. The Han dynasty was restored in 25 AD by Liu Xu. So there was a little period in the middle where they were overthrown, who moved the capital to the city known today as Luoyang. Subsequently, this period became known to historians as the Eastern Han dynasty, and the previous one as the Western Han dynasty. Now, I'll read it up to, and then I'll show you something. In 2020, the Eastern Han dynasty was overthrown by a peasant uprising. The Eastern Han was again. In its 400 years of existence, the Han dynasty had a profound influence upon the subsequent dynasties. The names of the Han nationality, Chinese characters, the Chinese language, and Chinese culture today are all in relation with the Han dynasty, like we have with the Roman Empire. In the Qin and the Han dynasties, the production grew, economy prospered, national defense was consolidated. So if you're going to rule, you've got to have the army on your side. And then you try to say to the people, you're not allowed to have any arms. That's the problem in America. They put in the Constitution that you can defend yourself. And look at that. They're still tackling with that problem. National defense was consolidated, technology and culture developed, and lots of outstanding achievements were made in medical science, astronomy, geology. And there also appeared many great statesmen, thinkers, strategists, scientists, historians and writers during this period. Notable among these achievements was the invention of the technique of paper making, which was a great contribution to world civilization because you could write on it. So great writers, like in Rome, you got Caesar became a writer, a lot of good writers. And again, I can't bring them up now. I just can't do it. I've got to look them up. But you don't have to wait for Tom Padula to tell you. Go for it. Look up writers of the Chinese empire, of the Qin and Han dynasties, of the Han dynasty. Read up some of this stuff from other parts of the world. It's good fun. It really is. I want to show you something. Because, it's no good sort of doing country and not knowing where things are. So I thought, here we are. There we are. How good is this? Thank you to my iPad. Yeah? There you are. These are the regions of China. And in each region, you can look up the roads, you can go close in. So you're looking from afar, but when you go in, and then when you go too far in, you've got a Hai Long Han. So you can look Hai Long Han. Harbin is the city, the capital city. Look it up. Heilongjiang province in China. Welcome to Lana Daryl Powderly. Look up Jilin, Changchun, Again, you got clothes. You look up Jilin on your iPhone. And I know someone today has got it. Quite a few people have got it. The next one is Liaoning, Shenyang. All at once, these names, which were very unfamiliar to us all, including me, are part of our knowledge. So when we talk about China, remember all these, and one man can't control the whole of China. He has to have a strong army, a strong government, and etc. But if they go too far with their strength, they lose it. That's the history teaches us, that the big rulers, the ones who make things happen, they only make things happen for a period of time. Then you've got to maintain the power base. Very hard to do. So it's better really to sort of pass it on to younger people so that they learn how to handle it. But, you know, when power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't want my children to come to my house and say, get out of here. If it's mine, if you pass it on to them, they can do that if they want to. But, you know, so you put things in place. Have a look at the other ones. You get the idea, though. Look at the southern part. Yunnan, for example, that comes into Guangxi region, Nanning, Sichuan, and then you've got the Tibet region here, up the top. They say it's ours, but, you know, the Tibetans don't think that. But they called it Xinjiang Uyghur Zizigu. Welcome to Antonio Carlos Zaccaria. So that's China for you. Now it's 11:51, and I'll read you a little bit more, but I got quite a bit today to do, so I might just leave this. Let me see how much more I've got. I just got a little bit more to read, and then I will leave the Qin and Han dynasties. So that's important to, you know, when you're looking at history, the geography part is very important as well. They are the two things that go hand in hand. Without knowing the geography, you can't really appreciate the history of a country. You got to, in Australia, you know, we've got the states, but how many people know all the rivers, the mountain chains, the lakes of Australia? I don't know. I'm a teacher. I got to this stage and I still don't know them. You have to look up. Maybe that's what I'll do next time. See, these talks of mine, they then lead me to other things. I don't plan it. I do it naturally. Whatever comes to me, I try to go from place to place and keep it up. Why do I keep it up? For me, with you in mind. But without that thing for me, I can't have you in mind. So when I write even, I always think of the end user of what I do. And can they improve their own selves? I'm happy when people make it in whatever area of their life. I really am happy. I'm happy to walk into a place that is successful. I love it. I respect the people who do it. You don't have to be jealous of somebody else. It's all part of our society. So put aside all those negatives. Think of other people in the positive. That's all I can say. Now let's go on. During the period of the Qin and Han dynasties, the Silk Road started to connect China with the Roman Empire. I'm reading, I haven't read this before. And the Western world as a whole. With the opening up of the Silk Road, the brilliant Chinese culture began to influence the whole world. So when they say, you know, China and the world, China's been doing it for centuries. And do you know that there's a train there that goes from China to Spain in direct line, China to Spain. Can you imagine that? Connections. And the splendid cultural accomplishments of other countries gradually merged into traditional Chinese culture. That's why the invasion of Australia, even though it was negative for many, many people and many generations, in the end it's proven to be the best thing for Australia. And therefore that's why the 26th of January must be kept to remind us of the colonial times and what has happened to Australia and the hurt, but also the positives comes out of it. What to do our First Nations people now have that they didn't have then. They can participate. And I hope that with the Constitution, that they have a place in there, they have a place in government. They can say their piece, but there are only 1 million, I don't know how many people, Indigenous people or people of First Nations people are in Australia today. How many truly Indigenous people are there? How many Aboriginal people are there? How many First Nations people are there in Australia? And we are 26 million. So what influence can one group? It's an important group, historically too for Australia, symbolically, but everyone is in the one family. Whether you come here from 65,000 years ago or yesterday, if you want to live in this country, you're part of it. And you better barrack for one of the football teams. Sport and politics are local. You can't worry about Italy if you're in Australia. I don't worry about who gets into power there. I just want to see the result. I'm interested in here. So people watch too much of the nostalgic part. Yeah, okay, if you don't speak English. But one of the most important things you can do is learn English. And it's never too late. Never too late. And I have lessons now online, free of charge. And I'm very glad to see that a lot of people are teaching languages now to adults. Adults learn languages more easily than children because you already speak another language. You already speak it. You know the 9 parts of speech. Whether you know them or not, it doesn't matter. You are using them when you speak. So that's it. That's all. 11:57. Got another half an hour. We go now to before the invasion. Just 1 second, and I'll bring it up. Here we go. Oh. And now we're looking at children games. Oh, but I didn't show you the Roman thing. Oh, doesn't matter, next time. Okay. Games. Let's go. That's for children. We've got this section here called childhood in before the invasion. And what did the children play? In a Neolithic nomadic village. They don't have the phones, the TVs, the radio. What did they play? A game the boys played in Central Australia was spearing the disc. They cut a disc about the size of a dinner plate from soft green bark. Taking up their toy spears, they formed themselves into 2 groups standing about 10 metres apart. Taking turns, they would roll the disc towards the other group, who would try to spear it as it passed. The game was fun and good training. By such games, the boys learned to handle a spear. A spear was important for killing an animal so that you could eat. It's a practical thing, so you play a practical game. Like people say, oh, not too much screen time for children. Yes, but we use them all the time when children look at us. So you've got to put a bit, if they couldn't always play this game. There are a lot of other games too. The boys, don't forget, it says the boys here. Girls in Central Australia played a game called Muni Muni. Taking leaves from a tree, they put them on the ground and used them as puppets to reenact incidents of camp life and travelling. They were doing a bit of theatre there. Different. It was a different type of game. Again, that's how the cultures develop. This game was much more than mere playing. It could be used to show up the bad behaviour of members of the tribe or group. The women are very smart when it comes to working together or not working together. It was a way of telling the culprit to mend his ways or her ways. Even the children were laughing at him or her. So, Muni, that's a girl's game, but then these people here say him. Why? Why didn't you say just her? They brought in him. Well, one game popular all over Australia was the string game, like Cat's Cradle. I don't know the game. Children tied circles of string and made patterns by passing it through the fingers. They could make very complicated and beautiful patterns. One or two children could play it either together or apart. Those adept at the game could make over 200 different patterns. A series of these patterns could be used to illustrate a traditional myth. For example, the women of the Western Desert made a series of string figures as they told the myth of the Spider Woman, which they taught to the girls. Now, I'm going to stop there. Oh, you've got a bit there. Let me show you. Here. Muni. Now this is the boys with the spears. Yeah, the picture's not clear. And this was a bark disc here. Bark disc. Piece of wood, really. Spears. It's a good game. I want to play that now. This is the Muni. And this is the string game. Look at it. I've seen something like that in Italy too. See that? Oop. Get out of the picture, Tom. There. Three good games. And these are the children playing. Beautiful picture. This is the Pichinjara children playing Mamu Tichiji Yantala Babu. That's Pichinjara children playing Mamu Ji Yantala Bubu, Devil's Baby, Ant Lion, Got to Your Home, whatever that means. Shelter, Central and Northern Western Australia. Many groups knew this figure and some had other meanings for it, whatever. Okay, so that's basically it for the, before the invasion. I haven't seen my face for a while, so here it is. Okay, now, of course, the colonials come. Let me get rid of these books. Okay. And I haven't had a drink. I need a drink. You know what? I'm going to go and get the water. Okay. Yes, because that's the advantage of Muni, huh? Children games. We can use them, and they can be shown on television by the people. Well, I'll just get a glass of water here. There you are. And we've got one of the new politicians there. There we are. Okay. Muni, huh? Now, the colonials, Banja Patterson, and I was looking at Henry Lawson as well. But Henry Lawson doesn't write poetry. He writes short stories, and he's very famous for that. and another good Australian colonial writer. Okay, well, let's go, and let's go to Banjo. And this time here, I was lost, and I've found, I'm here now. Okay, Lost. It's the name of the poem is called Lost, and this is wonderful. It's beautiful. Banjo is really a good writer. Here we go. Lost. He ought to be home, said the old man. Without there is something amiss. He only went to the 2 mile. He ought to be back by this. He would ride the reckless filly. He would have his wilful way. And here he's not back at sundown. And what will his mother say? He was always his mother's idol, since ever his father died. And there isn't a horse on the station that he isn't game to ride. But that reckless mare is vicious, and if once she gets away, he hasn't got strength to hold her, and what will his mother say? The old man walked to the slip rail and peered up the darkening track, and looked and longed for the rider that would never more come back. And the mother came and clutched him with sudden spasmodic fright. What has become of my Willie? Why isn't he home tonight? Away in the gloomy ranges, at the foot of an ironbark, the bonny, winsome laddie was lying stiff and stark. For the reckless mare had smashed him against a leaning limb, and his comely face was battered, and his merry eyes were dim. And the thoroughbred chestnut filly, the saddle beneath her flanks, was away like fire through the ranges to join the wild mob's ranks, join the other horses. And a broken-hearted woman and an old man worn and grey were searching all night in the ranges till the sunrise brought the day. Dangerous place, Australia, in the country when you're on your own. Something happens, no help. And the mother kept feebly calling with a hope that would not die. Willie, where are you, Willie? But how can the dead reply? And hope died out with the daylight, and the darkness brought despair. God pitied the stricken mother and answered the widow's prayer. Though far and wide they sought him, they found not where he fell, for the rangers held him precious and guarded their treasure well. The wattle blooms above him, and the bluebells blow close by, and the brown bees buzz the secret, and the wild birds sing reply. But the mother pined and faded, and cried and took no rest, and rode each day to the ranges on a hopeless, weary quest. Seeking her loved one ever, she faded and pined away, but with strength of her great affection she still sought every day. Mothers never give up, huh? I know that sooner or later I shall find my boy, she said. But she came not home one evening, and they found her lying dead. And stamped on the poor pale features, as the spirit homeward passed, was an angel's smile of gladness. She had found the boy at last. I'm going to start crying here. Wow. Oof. That's a very sad story, really and truly. So the boy died, and the mother, when she died, she found her boy. They're both dead. Benjo Patterson. Well, from there, we're going to go now to TomPadula. Let's see what happens now. If I can still find my way. Here we go again. Let's see if I can get it right this time. I had problems last time, and now, no. Yes, I've got it. Now, I don't know what to start with, but I think I'll start with this one here first. I'll do it in two lots. Okay, this is. I met this person here. Let me see. I met this person here. His name is Sandro L'Emigrante. He's a funny, he's a comedian in a way. He tells jokes all the time. He's older than me, but he's been on radio, etc. And he speaks a lot of Italian, local languages, Venetian, this and that. But let me get him to talk. Okay, this is the first one. Here we go. Che fortuna aver incontrato Sandro L'Emigrante. Ti ho visto qui altre volte alla Federazione Italia, ma poi stasera ho saputo, ma lo sapevo già da prima, che tu parli parecchio dialetto.
Insomma, Brigitta, sai, essendo stato in giro per l'Italia, anche qui a Melbourne, io sono stato in Holiday a Fitzroy. Sì.
Bravo. Ma tu mi hai detto pure che tu eri qua da piccolo.
Sì.
E invece adesso...
Quando sono venuto ero piccolo, avevo 70 anni. Sì.
Adesso avevo 60 anni.
70 anni.
Quindi stiamo a posto. E quindi l'Italia la conosci bene.
Bravo.
Ok. Allora, c'è questo signore di dietro qua, però...
No,
noi continuiamo. Va bene? People want to get in the picture. Sorry about the noise, but it's... Allora, questo è per cominciare. Okay, so that was that. Now, I do it in small doses so that we can,
Sandro, adesso mi devi dare un po' del tuo talento, mi puoi parlare in romano un po'
allora, qualche volta ci riesco,
Va bene, fallo, perché tu sei nato là.
Hai capito, sì. Sono a campo di Piazza Navona,
Piazza
proprio di Piazza Navona, e il fontanone di Piazza Navona in mezzo rappresenta i 4 fiumi più grandi del mondo.
Sì, esattamente. Ci sono stato.
Bravo, quella è la piscina mia quando ero piccolo.
Oh, fantastico. Però mi puoi parlare in romano.
E sto a parlare romano, non sto a parlare.
Mica stai parlando romano, io lo conosco.
Questo è proprio
romano stretto.
Romano di Campo dei Fiori.
Romano di Campo dei Fiori. Lo conosci allora a Trilussa, lo conosci? No?
A Trilussa, bravo.
Come amico tuo.
Sai, mica scherzo. Trilussa l'ho incontrato col senatore Restagno, che Restagno era milanese, a Roma, no? Proprio a Ponte Santo Spirito, attraversava, stava quasi davanti a Regina Celi, per ponte là, perché a Roma ce ne sono tanti
di ponte, esattamente.
C'è una registratore.
E a Belli lo conosci pure?
No, a Belli, e quello ancora non ero nato io.
Non eri nato.
Però a Trilussa, cioè i capelli bianchi, la barba, e siccome scriveva come tu sai, è l'amico di questo senatore Restagno, direttore generale della Banca San Paolo.
Guarda un po'.
Ecco, stava proprio sul ponte. Quando è morto lui poi, Trilussa, gli hanno fatta la piazza.
Esattamente, io l'ho filmato pure.
Prima non c'era, c'era un fontanone, una fontana.
E quindi abbiamo fatto qualche cosa su Trilussa, che io mi ricordo di cose, perché a me mi fecero imparare qualcosa, la diplomazia è una cosa che serve alla nazione per conservare buone relazioni con qualche...
Scusa, quanti anni c'hai?
Giovanissimo. Good fun with this guy here. Mi hai chiesto quanti anni ho, tu hai il 53, cioè
dico,
io invece 5 anni prima
io a
sono
forza da contare sul naso mi è venuto il naso.
a me pure mi è venuto. Ma tu parlavi veneto là, perché
Ah no, siccome erano veneti no. Allora il veneto, se te non te parli veneto non ti capiscono, capito te? Ecco, è così. Poi io veramente ero fare il soldato militare che era degli alpini. Sì, ho fatto il soldato là. Sì, tant'è vero che si andava presso una ragazza natosa là, però questo amico mio, lui era bersagliere, non sai il
come
titolo?
mio papà era un bersagliere.
Cosa aveva in testa?
Le piume.
Le piume, loro si chiamano le penne, ma
Le penne degli alpini, però le piume dei bersaglieri.
le bersagliere.
Got him there.
Mamma, sai che ci sono due soldati militari che mi fanno la corte. Uno è alpino e uno è bersagliere. Chi ti dà esperienza, mamma? Sai, dimmi che devo prendere. Ascolta bene, ti darò un po' di esperienza di soldato. Allora devi sapere che i bersaglieri hanno tante di quelle penne, ma tutte giù. L'alpino ha una penna sola e dritta, c'ha quella dritta.
Ah, naughty boy. Here we go. One more. I'm going to finish him off. Sei conosciuto come Sandro l'emigrante.
Sì, emigrante perché quando mi sono arrivato avevo sono andato giù in Calabria, conoscete a Peppino. E si vede Carlo l'altra sera, anto club che ne giocava una carta. Rocco, Nicolino, Peppino e Pasqualino. E ne giocava una briscola, conoscete la briscola?
Come no? Ogni 3-7.
Ho compare Rocco, ci ha detto compare Rocco, metteteci un bello carico che non hai la briscola. Non hai un carico, non hai 2 punti, e non la mannaggia sentire. Io hai questo 30 briscola, capisci? E hai pure questo qua, è l'asso da briscola. Io non hai asse e 3 briscola, comando io, metteteci un carico da 11 che ne portava a casa. Non hai un carico, ti metto 2 punti. Lei ci ha dato un punto, ci ha sporcato pronto soccorso, ci hanno portato, tutto sanguinante. E il dottore come ha visto, signore scusi, lei qui ha un taglio sopraccigliare molto profondo, qui ci mettiamo 2 punti. E io ci ho detto che mi mettevo 2 punti.
Bravo. He likes to tell jokes and it's great. Almost there now, I think. Sul nostro tavolo c'era uno che veniva da Tocco Casale. E tu sei abruzzese, sei stata a Chieti, vero?
Sì, conosco tutto l'Abruzzo, tutte le montagne, la piccola Maiella, la Maiella grande. Sai che so questo tutte le montagne?
Sì, sono le montagne grandi.
Sì, perché io veramente ho detto non è una vergogna che ognuno sa lo mestiere, sì, no? Io vengo proprio di generazione, perché io facevo il pastore, ma non della chiesa, delle pecore.
Delle pecore?
Ecco, è così, no?
E facevi il formaggio pure?
Beh, un pochettino le capive, no? Perché non era tutto quello che si faceva alla pecora.
E lì in Abruzzo sono fantastici.
Tutta questa roba così. E io vengo da vecchia generazione, di roba delle pecore, perché pensa che la nonna di mia nonna era una pecora, forse non le capisco.
Addirittura?
Sì.
Ma il cognome era pecora?
No,
di cognome?
Che cognome la pecora? Cognome la pecora
era proprio una pecora?
Proprio una pecora.
Ma difatti io ultimamente sono andando indietro nella storia e noi veniamo tutti dalle pecore pure.
Sì,
dagli animali, da lì che veniamo.
Sì,
quindi non mi sorprende proprio niente.
Beh, poi ci sono pure le capre, bisogna conoscere pure le capre.
Caproni,
che quello si chiama un becco, gli becco, eccoci.
Le cosa ricordi?
No, io paese me stava sopra sopra, non so se sta ricordi quel...
Non te lo puoi ricordare perché tu sei di piazza Navona.
Ah sì, beh,
quindi non è che mi stai
sì,
dicendo...
e dopo sono andato più sopra, no? Sulle montagne, ma più sopra.
La Maiella.
Sotto la Maiella c'è sta, sopra un morrone, sì, sì. C'è stava Papa Celestino V, ma sentite questo?
Sì, come no?
Papa Celestino V è stato un Papa forzato, ce l'hanno forzato a
Ma
fare
io
Papa.
sto leggendo Dante Alighieri e Celestino, quindi mi sembra è uno dei canti
è un
di
Pasolini,
Dante. Addirittura,
sì.
che bravo Papa.
Sì, è stato bravo.
Ma difatti si trova all'inferno, si trova.
All'inferno perché lui l'hanno forzato a fare un Papa. Poi ci ha detto, ma io che Papa? Io non so manca legge. Perché lui c'aveva l'eremo sopra, sotto la Maiella. C'è sta un paese che non mi ricordo che Caramanica Terme. Si chiama Caramanica Terme, che adesso dice che ci hanno fatto l'alberghi perché lì ci vanno a fare. Sì, ci fanno i bagni di fango. Sì, e sono tutti i giorni, tutta volta i giorni, guarda il butti dentro quello fango e là, riesci fuori,
sei giovane di nuovo?
Lucibili.
Ma per questo che tu sei così giovane ancora?
Sì, e appunto, forse la fammi il bagno di fango, perché io, mentre li facevano i corsi, alle maiali, perché i maiali ci piace, no, fanno fango, ma ancora non abbiamo scoperto noi queste liste, me lo facevo pure io, diciamo loro, sì, e così ero sempre più giovane.
Sei sempre più giovane.
Mi allattavano sempre a me, perché...
Just got to check it. I think there's a little bit more, and then I will let me see how much. Yeah, there's only one more, which I will do, and then we'll go to my travels around Victoria. Here we go. Up. Sandro, grazie mille perché sei su TomPadulaTV. Welcome to Lucia Solar. Attualmente userò questi tuoi racconti, grazie mille. Thank you very much.
È stato un piacere, ma il mio nome vero e proprio Sandro Vitelli.
Sandro Vitelli. Mi fa un gran piacere, grazie mille.
Hanno chiamato per l'emigrante perché io quando facevo questo spettacolo andavo in giro e facevo con
sulla radio
con la valigia, i salsicce, i salami, lui piasche del
un comico degli anni 80-90. Grazie, ciao.
Ok, ciao.
That was beautiful. I promised him, and he's been at me. When are you going to put me on? When are you going to put me on? Il tempo arriva. Speriamo. Speriamo. Now I have to go down to the dates. I think here we are. Yes. I'm getting better at this, honestly. It's wonderful. Now, last time I showed you Rai, and then we got to a place, then there was a place called Romana. So where did I start? No, that's the cottage. I'm looking, so just be patient. I'm looking, so where are we now? We said that was there. I can't remember now. My God. Just be patient with me. I'll get there eventually. That was Rosebud Pier. We did it. We did those ones there. Here we are. This is the next day. This is Dramana Beach. And it's wonderful. And I'm just going to go through it. There you are. You know, you need some selfies to remember. This is a bad one. Okay, that's a nice one here. That's along the beach. Nice walk. Look at that. And, you know, I stopped along the way. I mean, it's a long stretch. Let's have a look here. All along the coast. There are beach houses everywhere. Wouldn't believe it, huh? lifestyle. That's what the sea gives you. Fresh air and beautiful afternoons, especially now that the sun is sort of hiding. Very nice. Now, this was the boat shed there, Capel Sound, okay? So it gives us the clue of where we are on the Mornington Peninsula. There it is there. Beautiful. The boat shed on Capel Sound. And this is what, you know, some of the, well, you can see life jackets, safe operations, minimums. This is for boating. And this all the places here, look. So here we've got the lookout. Do we have a, no, we don't have, what does it say here? Dentist? No. Okay, must be the next one. That was the boat shed. And then I decided to walk on the beach. There you are. Wow. And then I had to, there's a bench where I changed. Children's playground. Look at this. It's lovely, isn't it? Nice walk. It's all plastic. Beautiful colours. And of course the birds want to be filmed by me, so they show up as required. There they are, more. Oh, they keep you company, the birds. Look at this one here. Look at that. Beautiful. Private Owner Samuel Gordon Myers, B Company second, but he was the only one who died in World War I from here. He was born in Rye. This is Rye. Okay, he was the only one who was killed in World War I in France. The plaques. That's another one. Upgrade in Rye, etc. And nothing of the indigenous people who lived here before. They're fixing it up. You know, got some good piers along there, but this is another one of them that needs to be done up. That's it there. Beautiful open spaces, you know, shopping centre, lovely area. And this is the other side of that boat shed. Very talented, some of these people. Look at that. Good one. Well done. What's this one? Yeah. Rye Pier. It's along there. Beautiful roads. That was from the year before, the Rye Carnival. So they have activities. Look at this tree. Isn't that magnificent? I mean, you couldn't, if you wanted to grow that way, it's a unique tree. Look at that. And of course, look how many cars there are. Oh, this one, that's my car. And this is along the beach. I stopped on purpose on the road to take this this particular pics. I thought, how beautiful is this? Yes, here we are. Well, this is Tuesday, and yeah, one more day. I decided to go to Dramana and have a look. I know that I've been there before, but this time with a different view. I want to film a bit of it, and I've just stopped. Beautiful, quite beautiful today. A bit windy, but apart from that, the sky is clear, and I'm really going to enjoy this. That's it, and I did too. Dramana, where the mountain meets the sea. Beautiful area. I didn't go to the end there. I was, look at that. The pier. And that's the well, it's spectacular pics. Really, they really are. And so they're building this up again. Public works, good. Now this one here, what does it say here? Oh, these are the birds. Look at that, look at that. Seagull country. Look at that, it's fantastic. Love it. More? Yes. I think that lady there had food for the birds, so they followed her. But I didn't with my camera. Oh, that's beautiful too. And this is the water. The sound of the waves crashing down. And those waves are still crashing. There's another one, somebody taking photos, whatever, thinking. That was a tourist, by the way, before. And I went across the road for a coffee. Il Globo was there, happy as Larry. There you are. And the sunset. Look at that. Lucia Solar, Sole. Magnificent. The colours are just at sunset, just beautiful. Typical vegetation near the sea. I don't know. Oh, this is what? I'm about to experience another sunset here from Dramana. I've just been to the hotel and got our cafe latte or cappuccino, and it was quite nice. So I picked up the Volvo and hello, Harry Varellis, welcome. Moments to myself there, and it was lovely. And now I'm walking back. I'm ready to go back to European Country Club. Oh, I just realised I've gone over time. But let me have a look at where I am now. Oh yeah, we'll continue next time. Next time from here, because then yeah, next time 32. That's good. Okay, well that was it for this week. I've enjoyed showing you this, these pics from Dramana. Quite interesting, the whole experience for the 1 week. And yeah, it's fantastic stuff. So today we did quite a bit: Rome and Carthage, China, went before the invasion, and then of course with Lost, one of the poems from Benjo, and of course my interviews of Sandro Vitelli, who his name was, and the Mornington Peninsula Dramana. From Tom Padula, of TomPadulaTV on YouTube and smart TVs too now. Just go in, TomPadulaTV and also Tom Padula, just those two. Subscribe to both and enjoy my footage. Well, my many programs there. And of course, Insegna Booksellers for all your language needs. Ciao, until next time. That's it for today.